This episode of Now This Is Lit is brought to you by Audible. Check the link in the description to get your first Star Wars audiobook free. Everyone loves free things. Click that link. Do it. This show is also brought to you by our patrons. If you want to support the show in a different way, with just $1 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. You can get a sticker. You can get access to an exclusive show that we do every month that's wild and chaotic and fun and something you can only get by becoming a member of the Patreon. There'll be so many more perks very, very soon. But for now, do you want a sticker? Do you want a sticker that has a Now This Is Lit logo? Because it's fantastic and I love them. But I also want to give them away because there's just a stack of stickers on my desk. So if you want one, $1 a month. Patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Now This Is Lit, a podcast about Star Wars books, the people who make them, and the readers who just can't get enough of them. I'm your host, Meg Dowell. I use she, her pronouns. And the interview you're about to hear took place on a Sunday morning, and I thought to myself as I was logging on to do this interview, I have to bring all of the energy because it's early. It's Sunday. I am the host. I need to really just get this going. And then my guest logged on. My guest, of course, is Clayton Sandell. And if you know anything about Clayton, you know that you don't need to bring the energy when you're talking to Clayton Sandell because Clayton Sandell will bring the energy to the room. It's kind of what he does. It's kind of being alive for an interview, no matter which side of it he may be on, is kind of what he does. And we will talk about that in this interview that we did. I had so much fun. I can't wait for a reason to talk to Clayton again. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we enjoyed recording it. Yeah. All right. We can talk about you. Who doesn't want to talk about themselves on a fine Sunday morning?
There you go. Yeah.
Tell me about you and your discovery of Star Wars and how that has kind of led you on the path that you're now on.
Yeah, it was early for me. I was 4 when my aunt and uncle took me to see Star Wars in the theater sometime in 1977, and I just, like millions of other people and kids, it just infused itself into my DNA. Like I just took to it, and it was this thing that I just absolutely loved. And I have old film that my parents took at Christmas of 1977, before there were any Star Wars toys out. They had these like knockoff flashlights with plastic tubes on the end that you could like put a red disc in there to make it red, or a blue gel to make it blue. And I have video of me playing with these things at a very young age. And so it really was this like crazy time as a kid where you had Star Wars, then you had Empire, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Gremlins. It was like this 10-year period where it was just this amazing bunch of films that sort of shaped my childhood. But yeah, Star Wars was the first, and I just loved it, everything about it. And when Return of the Jedi left the theaters, I, like a lot of people, thought, well, that was it. We're not going to get any more new Star Wars movies, even though they had been retitled Episode 4, 5, and 6, suggesting there were other stories to be told out there. But yeah, so at that point, I just kind of turned to, I've always been fascinated with the behind the scenes aspects of movie making and wanting to know how the special effects were done and all of that stuff. So I kind of, my interest sort of shifted from the stories to the behind the scenes stories. And so, all of every ILM book that ever came out, I subscribed to. um, this magazine called Cinefex, which was this really in the weeds, written really for visual effects professionals kind of magazine that would come out a few times a year and just would devour anything and everything that had to do with Star Wars because they would go back and do retrospectives and things like that. Uh, so that's kind of where my interest really went, was toward the behind the scenes stuff. And then I would admit that my traditional fandom kind of went dormant in the dark times when we didn't have any movies, and kind of got rekindled when, of course, we went and saw the special editions when they came out, which was amazing. And of course the prequels. But really when things for me sort of fan wise and professional wise really kicked up was around when the Disney sale was announced, and it was announced that a new movie was on the way. It was like, oh, okay, we're back.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it kind of was a nice confluence of my job and my interests at the time, because in 2015 I went to my first Star Wars celebration. And it's funny because I had told my bosses that I had I had taken time off months earlier, and I had for Christmas told my wife, all I want is a 3-day pass to Celebration. I'm just going to go and check it out, see what it's all about. Never been to one, no idea what to expect. And it was really just like a few days before that I reminded my boss that I was going, and he goes, if you're going to be there anyway, why don't you file from there? Why don't you do some work from there? And I was like, okay, sure. So that was the first. I ended up doing a piece on the evening news, and then we did a Nightline piece, and this is when I was at ABC, and so that sort of kicked it off, and then I was hooked. I was like, oh, this is something I can do as like a side interest, a side hustle to all my regular news duties. This is something that I can have fun with in the in between times and pitch things in the Star Wars realm. So that's kind of how it all came back to being something that was part of my work too, which was like the best of both worlds.
Yes. The moment when you figure out that you can make something you love, you can make things about something that you love and kind of like merge your hobby and your like the thing that you actually do, it changes everything.
Changes everything
Yeah.
because all of a sudden, like the people that you idolized and were your like heroes, the Dennis Murans and the Joe Johnstons, and even John Knoll and all of these people that you read about for years, and who really were responsible for, it's not hyperbole, absolutely changing the movie making industry and the arts of visual effects. Now I'm like interacting with these people. I'm like interviewing them, and it's there's a whole bunch of pinch me moments that come up when you start to get to do stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite of those moments?
You know, yeah, all of the I would say all of the stuff that I did around Rogue One was really special, because that was a film that was special to Lucasfilm and ILM, because it was John Knoll's, concept, and they were all very proud of the fact that he had pitched this movie and gotten it made, and all the work they did on it. And so I ended up spending a lot of time at Lucasfilm and ILM, interviewing the cast, but also talking to the special effects guys, the whole team there that put that together. And so it just felt like a very special experience, because it was really the first time for me professionally that I had gone to those places and were talking to those people in person. And so, yeah, when I look back at all of the lead up and the build up to Rogue One, it's just a ton of fond memories. I think that was the first time I went to Skywalker Ranch and was getting to talk to the cast, of course, which was great. But that was also the first time I met Dennis Muren. So yeah, I would say all things Rogue One kind of rolled into one.
Something that I've found is being a person who is kind of trained and very experienced in asking questions. It makes it very fun when you have an interest like Star Wars and you find yourself in a position where you get to ask questions about the thing that you love that not only you want to know about, but you're like, I want everyone to know about this. I think it's like one of my favorite things. It's like, oh, like we know the questions to ask, but we also know the questions that no one else has asked that we can be like, this this has become magical.
Yeah, it is. It's fun because that's sort of one of the missions a lot of times when I get to do these things is um how what are those things that you want to know, and you kind of want to, my goal is always to kind of take you along with
Mm,
me, when
yeah.
we go to these places. So whether it's going through the gates and driving up to the production building at Skywalker Ranch, or going in the doors of ILM, or whatever it is. Yeah, that the goal is to sort of take you along on the journey a little bit, and like you say, try to get to those questions and things that maybe nobody has ever really talked about before, and hopefully you reveal something new along the way. So hopefully people learn something from what you're from what you're reporting.
Yeah. Um, you have had a book come out recently that you got to contribute to. Not your first official Star Wars thing that you've worked on, but if you want, you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is I'm very excited about this, the Return of the Jedi visual archive, from Inside Editions. And it was people have asked me, well, what is this thing? Is it a behind the scenes book? Is it a sort of in-universe book? And the answer to that is it's kind of a hybrid. It's a discussion of all things Jedi, from concept art, costumes, set design, models, and how, really kind of taking a look at how a lot of the design from Jedi continues to influence Star Wars stories today. So things that we first saw in Jedi, from the folding wing shuttles to speeder bikes, all sorts of things. Those things still continue to show up in Star Wars stories in 2024. So it's sort of the legacy of all things that Jedi contributed to Star Wars canon. And along the way, there's lots of great behind the scenes anecdotes and trivia and all sorts of fun stuff in there. So it's a really fun one. It's myself and ST Bende and Kelly Knox and some folks from the Insight team. So very, very excited about it, because it's kind of in my wheelhouse. Like I was talking about earlier, just the behind the scenes aspects we really get to kind of dive into a little bit here. And it's also it's something that is an original trilogy project. So that, for me, that's sort of my that's kind of my jam. That's kind of where I grew up.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get to work on something that was Jedi specific.
Yeah. I cannot wait to check it out, and can't wait for everyone else to also. Um, Highly recommend if you've never checked out the more behind the scenes um, books that kind of give you an insight of how all this happened, and all the details you may not know. Definitely check them out, because the team who made them happen worked very hard on them, and it shows every single time. So it's going to be really, really good.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. It's fun because a lot of these, it's fun to sort of get dive into some of the ideas and motivations for why certain creative choices were made here and there.
Mm.
And I think ultimately it gives you a better appreciation, better understanding for the film when you watch it the next time.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things is reading these and learning all of the things you may not have known, and then going back and watching the movie again, and you're like, oh, like I know a fun fact about that everyone sitting here with me does not know. It makes you feel a little bit special.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
This has been fantastic. I'm so glad that we were able to sit down and talk about Star Wars and all the amazing things that you do. And you're going to continue to do that, I'm sure. And we'll have to have you back at some point to talk about more books that you work on.
I would love to come back. Yeah, there are I will tell you, more projects in the works that we can't talk about yet, but in a few months maybe they will be out there for public consumption. So yes, I would love to come back anytime, talk more Star Wars and more Star Wars books, and yeah, holler anytime.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love a good tease. All right, that's good. That's great. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure everyone else is too. Thank you so much for this. Now This Is Lit is part of the Faraway Fandom Network. It is produced by Devor Mondam and written, hosted, and edited by me. Jose Jimenez designed our podcast art. You can keep up with the show on Substack and Now This Is Lit, and find the show wherever you get your podcasts. There are so many ways you can support the show, and all of those ways are linked in the show description. The newest way is to become a member of our Patreon. For $1 a month, you can get access to an exclusive show and a sticker. And if we get 500 people to support the Patreon per month, I can hire an editor. That would be great for me, and maybe for you too. So if you'd like to support the show with just $1 a month, you can do it that way. Or you can just keep listening and sharing the episodes. That is also helpful, and I appreciate it. For more book reviews and Star Wars Book Celebration, follow Star Wars Book Reviews on Instagram and TikTok.